the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of.
It's been like 10 years probably since I had you on Buzzsaw, and so much has changed. Your beard has grown out fully. You look now like a mage. So yeah, I want to get into your perception of what's taking place on this planet. I think for those that don't know you, they might assume you're like a black magician or something. So maybe we just get into that.
I do get that stigma as far as my persona, my aesthetic, and all this different kind of shit. Now, when we first corresponded, that is when I actually started the mystery school with Black Earth Productions via Temple of the White Dragon. And as far as the curriculum is concerned and everything that's been developed over the years, this transcends both the left wing and the right wing brotherhoods and sisterhoods in context of what people would assume when it comes to magic, the occult, that a lot of people in the realm are still not privy to. You asked me about how I see the condition, especially since we last spoke. I warned about everything before it hit. In hindsight to what manifested in 2020. This is one of the main things that I got into with you before. Coming back around about 9 years, that number is also significant. The world is still in thrall in terms of the lockdown equations and all these things that do attribute black magic, the dark occult when it comes to the Metatronics. That's a lot to get into. It's getting into numerology, it's getting into mathematics.
Yeah, let's break it down for a second. How does the dark occult, because there's a lot of awareness, the growing awareness, right, about the dark occult, not just black magic, but like blood ceremonies. People are talking about human trafficking and murder of children for their blood and things like this, right? How does the dark occult rule? Is it through ritual and, as you said, through number and things like this that's multidimensional in terms of how this works?
It's through manufactured consent in context of mind control, dark sorcery, and how they're able to manipulate the reality field in terms of not only using cosmic law against us, but all of the other arts and sciences that have been demonized through religion, all the belief systems that they give people in the outer court of Solomon's temple. This is where all of the dark sorcery originates, taking it back to the Sumerian Draconian Empire. As far as any content on Black Earth Productions that has been produced, one of the main segments that I put out before what hit in 2020 is the Magi Grail Shaman, Betrayal of Thoth, and Rise of a Source segment. This is a 7-hour dissertation where I go deeper than probably anybody else out there has from my vantage point as far as what I've observed. The crux of all of this goes back to ancient Kemet in terms of the Sumerian invasions. This is just a repeat of a repeat of a repeat. The AI timeline trajectory as well. This is all old. And what I've determined, that AI timeline trajectory that we also talked about 9 years ago, back to Buzzsaw, there's also the original timeline trajectory that's happening in terms of true prophecies right under the nose and in the face of those that implement these measures in the realm in terms of manufactured consent. And that's how they do it. Fear-based bullshit.
Yeah. Since COVID, there's been a mass rapid awakening, right? It's like COVID was...
Oh, yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
However...
Yeah, go ahead. However, what?
Everyone's still in thrall, living in the realm of effect. And they don't understand the true dynamic of what's going on, or even why. Why has this even happened? A lot of people do have major questions. I still have major questions as well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to come on with you again to also get your advantage as far as what you've been observing the last 9 years and how things have developed, not just a network, but also what you've seen. Same question, man.
Yeah. I lose track of time. I think that we're moving beyond time in that linear Saturnian control structure, how so much of the finance and the mind control worked linear, right? Even the nature of what you're talking about, cause and effect. Well, when you're truly working with your higher self, with the dream time, with your inner vision, your imagination, right? People ask me like, what is spirituality? I'm like, start with your imagination, what you perceive, because it's literally, it starts with what you can perceive a different reality, and you start to shift reality accordingly. From that vantage point, we're non-linear when we operate that way. We don't wait for something to happen to respond to it. We are literally working to recreate the reality. And that's why a lot of us are able to perceive things before they occur, whether it's exactly the event or the mood, the climate. We're able to feel into it and say, oh, wow, something's building up, be it like a 9/11 event or 2020 or whatnot. Like we collectively start to feel something is gathering in the collective that's being guided by dark magicians to serve their ends. We could likewise, as we become more aware and actually align with intentionality, we are shifting into new timelines and new realities where they don't control us.
Exactly. And this is what I've been teaching the last 9 years with the mystery school, even more than that, before things really took off back in 2015, 2016. This is when I came on with you. So many things I can say. That factor, what you just mentioned, this is what it means to be the cause point in the reality field. And the two main timelines, as far as what I've been able to measure, it's the AI timeline versus the original timeline trajectory. And it's all based upon choice. People are literally choosing to go with the stages that have been set. We both know that the entire world's a stage. Okay, what about the stages that you're setting for your own existence? Do you understand how things actually work in terms of reality, our connection in nature and the universe, and what I term again to be the higher force? That was the title of the segment that we did on Buzzsaw, The Force Awakens, and taking it back to the occult secrets of the Jedi in context to the precession of the grand cycle and where things are, the 26,000 year cycle. Everything's come to a head. This is why it's all risen to the surface, and also to know the difference in terms of why they did what they did in 2020 is because people are activating. People's templates are activating in context to core intelligence. We're starting to remember more and more and more as things progress. And this is why they're doing everything they can to lock down the reality field into the trapezoid equations of the 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. Again, getting into numerology and all of this occult shit. The occult's been demonized. So when someone comes onto my platform or checks out any of my content, they're already programmed to assume that I'm a part of this dark shit when it couldn't be further from the truth. I've been down that track. So much has revealed itself, so much more beyond what I could have ever imagined. Doing this and getting on with you again to have this discussion to expound a little bit more for people.
So this is where you say like AI versus original organic. I see the two can coincide though. We can have both. We can use AI, we can use technology, so long as we don't become the Borg, right?
Well, right. That's basically what it fucking boils down to is El Borg. That's the real agenda behind the smokescreen of all these things that are technically a benefit to us right now. Again, manufactured consent, getting everyone to follow that honeypot, so to speak. It's a total paradox. As far as what's been implemented in terms of AI, that's not the real AI. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a prerequisite conditioning that's taking place to manufacture consent in context to the real shit. As far as anything that's been implemented with the real, it does go back to the neocraft. It goes back to what they put in that dark serum. More people have died in the last 5 years than during World War II, man. Calculate that shit.
All this darkness, I mean, so it's the way I see it is like there's a massive experiment going on. The darkness, this is all permitted by us to experience, all this darkness and extremes of darkness, because it's also ways of catalyzing our transformation into deeper knowledge, right? You have to see the dark to activate the light. There is no Luke Skywalker without Darth Vader. Those that try to make it a dark versus light thing don't recognize the necessity of the two, no? The dance.
Exactly. This is what I'm talking about as far as the system that has been developed with Temple of the White Dragon. Is the name of the mystery school. It's transcending both paradoxes in context to the true darkness, which of course is ignorance. There is no darkness, but ignorance. And unless we embrace our ignorance and go into those corridors of the unknown, then we're not going to be able to unravel the gift that's there within the shadow. That also placates this whole measure of the false cold light, which is a veil keeping you from the actual real, transcending both triangulation dialectics, where they lock things down into the fucking trapezoid and then just keep you in the wheel of illusion. You're right about having to go into that and understanding all spectrums of the equation to really, really grasp what the fuck is beyond what's been implemented in terms of indoctrination, false belief systems. This is why the occult has always fascinated me. Ever since I was a kid, looking up books on the gods, and it was always there with me. And I think also from previous incarnation in terms of bloodlines. And I've discovered that I hail actual shamanic bloodline lineage. Has landed on me to create this school, taking it back to the original teaching, and again, that trajectory of the original timeline. I've been hit. I've been deplatformed. They've tried to take me out multiple times, even through other fucking people that were seemingly allies. We've also seen that in network. People come together, and then the warfare, the actual spiritual warfare that's between people, they can't even discern it or navigate it, and then it all spirals out. Again, it's a repeat of a repeat of a repeat. Another thing I've been able to gauge what we're actually moving through right now and what we're healing through are those betrayal cycles that happen on account of the most recent cataclysm that led up to the splitting of the land. There was the pole shift that took place, the great deluge that all of the ancient texts talk about. This is what we've been healing through. And especially this year going into 2028. It's like bottom of the rung. They're doing everything they can to throw the entire realm into madness and all this shit that we see in, as far as the political left, insanity, and even the political right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even get into. It's interesting how there was a certain point that came in waves, right?
Yeah.
2012 to 2015, 16 cycle. There was a lot of work that felt it had to be done in the collective. And then once Trump came in, I wasn't even interested in politics anymore. Whatever this show is, leave it. Let's focus on more on the spiritual self-work. And that obviously led to 2020. So to be prepared, we didn't know at the time, but to be prepared for 2020 and what was going to come, you name it. Friendships were rifts in families, people relocating, losing jobs. It was the end of the world. It was the end of the world that was prophecy with 2012, right? It was the end of the world in 2020. We had to prepare for that. There was a lot of chaos. And now places like Gaza, those are horror shows. Those are examples of real chaos. But outside of certain situations like that, a lot of it is just Twitter bait bullshit at this point. Some outrageous thing here, outrageous thing there. If you want to focus your attention on that, so be it. But we got work to do on ourselves, as you said, to heal these wounds from those traumas, from those charges that we're carrying, because that's what it is. Until you've let go of that feeling of betrayal and hurt, until you've let that go and been able to not to say forget, but just in a way, forget the charge of it, to look at it more as a great dramatic piece of art, which is what the world really is, right? It's from a higher vantage. It's just this amazing movie with all the emotional drama that comes with the comedies and tragedies and all of it's playing out. If we can look at it more as a work of art, playing itself out, I think we can allow ourselves to go with the flow of it, let the universe guide us, almost like in a dream. I don't know what day it is. Okay, I don't have anything to do. Let me just sit here and wait. Let the universal bus show up metaphorically and just, okay, that's where I'm going to go next.
It's interesting you bring that up because I think a lot of people don't know what to fucking do. We've obviously reached levels of success where we can pretty much do whatever the fuck we want with our lives. The real question is, what is our true purpose? One of the main things I teach with the mystery school is the arts and sciences that reveal the specific proper knowledge and wisdom that would unveil that to an individual. And again, the occult, as far as that dark sliver, is a very, very tiny aspect of a much larger trajectory that obviously the dark ones don't want us to get access to. Because if you get access to proper knowledge and wisdom, that's beyond their measures of bullshit, we are going to become the cause point and be that standing torch. That torch is being passed to our generations. The torch of Aldarship is being passed to our generations, and we are literally sandwiched in between generations that got completely overran. I'm not saying this about your father. One thing I want to bring up, the fact that your father wrote the original script for Conan the Barbarian. I got to tell you, man, that was one of my absolute most favorite films growing up when I was a kid. There's that part right in the beginning when Akiro, Mako, the guy that played Akiro, the wizard, states, between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of. Right? And then it goes into the whole thing, the riddle of steel, and that particular scene when Conan, when he was a young boy with his father, taught him the riddle of steel. That has always stuck with me. And the reason why I'm bringing it up, your father originally wrote that script. It was rewritten by John Millis. I just wanted to ask you real quick before we continue. Were you actually on that set as a kid?
I wasn't born, but I've read my dad's is quite different, actually. He has brought a lot of those elements because Milius understood certain things about the shape-shifting reptilian stuff,
Yeah.
I'm a wizard, mind you. This place is kept by powerful gods and spirits of kings. On my flesh, and you will have to deal with the dead.
You summon demons, wizard?
Yes! If I strike at you, I would summon a demon more ferocious than all in hell. Mounds have been here since the time of the Titans. Kings buried in them, great kings. Domains once glittered like the light on a windy sea. Fire won't burn there. No fire at all. That's why I live down here in the wind.
You care for these places?
I sing to them. On nights when they wish. I sing of the tales of battles, heroes, witches, and women. Nobody bothers me down here. Not even Thulsa Doom.
There was a time, boy, when I searched for steel. And steel meant more to me than gold or jewels.
The riddle of steel.
Yes. You know what it is, don't you, boy? Shall I tell you? It's the least I can do. Steel isn't strong, boy. Flesh is stronger. Look around you. There, on the rocks. That beautiful girl.
Come to me, my child.
That is strength, boy. That is power. The strength and power of flesh. What is steel compared to the hand that wields it? Look at the strength of your body, the desire in your heart. I gave you this. Such a waste. Contemplate this on the tree of woe. Crucify him.
Fire and wind come from the sky, from the gods of the sky. But Crum is your god. Crum, and he lives in the earth. Once giants lived in the earth, Conan. And in the darkness of chaos, they fooled Crum. And they took from him the enigma of steel. Crum was angered, and the earth shook. And fire and wind struck down these giants, and they threw their bodies into the waters. But in their rage, the gods forgot the secret of steel and left it on the battlefield. And we who found it are just men. Not gods, not giants, just men. And the secret of steel has always carried with it a mystery. You must learn its riddle, Conan. You must learn its discipline. For no one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
He has brought a lot of those elements because Milia's understood certain things about the shape-shifting reptilian stuff, you know. And
Yeah.
Conan. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff wasn't in the original draft my dad wrote. I don't know if Atlantis was brought up. Atlantis was part of the Conan legend. The Hyperboreans, who basically come post-Atlantis, trickling into the original Conan work. My dad's version was quite different. This one, I agree with you. I love it. My dad's version would have been very epic too, in a different way, more like a Lord of the Rings with skeleton armies. But this one was amazing. We're talking here about what are the gods. I mean, I was asking this question recently, and I'm like, are these gods just are they thoughts? Like, are they created by humans? Going back to the Hindu scriptures, like, are they like demigod types, right? Not obviously the one source of all creation, but like demigod types who exist and are talking to people in the forms of Yahweh, right? Or an Allah or whatnot. That's my curiosity of how you interpret it.
Well, all of that goes back to the Sumerian Draconian Empire in context. All of that specifically. Now, what I've learned to discover over the years as far as the gods and goddesses are concerned, this of course goes back to archetypal consciousness. There are 4 primary race lines within the realm. How I explain things, the 4 primary race lines: white dragon is of the north, black dragon is of the south, yellow dragon is of the east, and red dragon is of the west. Now, taking it back to the ancient wars that actually unfolded between Sumeria and ancient Kemet, I get into a very, very deep expansion with that Magog Grail Shaman, Betrayal of Thoth, and the Rise of the Source segment. That's 7 hours. And it took me over 15 years of doing research and study, not just putting that together, but to my own experience as far as hyperdimensional warfare is concerned. You speak of the gods. I know the gods exist because I've had interface with them, but they're not gods and goddesses to be bowed down to and worship and make sacrifice. This is how everything has become twisted on a path of involution, where we are conditioned to deny our very soul, to deny core intelligence in terms of our connection to the higher force. The god realms absolutely exist, and there's many different grid works of consciousness when it comes to the gods. Taking it back to the War of the Gods, diving into the mythos of my ancestors on account of archetypal consciousness that we are playing out on ground level here in Midgard, here on Earth. And because we've been cut off from our traditions, given over to these ideologies that the religions of what I call the trifecta have implemented, have all torn us away from our true roots. We're still in a major time of learning to remember not only what you're getting at in terms of your question, but what's beyond this lockdown fucking bullshit that is a cause point for us to tear at each other's throats. As far as the Dark Sorcerers are concerned, another series that I have on Black Earth Productions that's over 10 hours is the Occult Secrets of Carpathia. This is where the trajectory has led me as far as my lineage and bloodlines and learning to remember the real war that's taking place, taking it back to what I mentioned about the Sumerian invasions that happened during the 13th and 14th dynasty. All go back to that war between the Lycan and the vampire. We're up against actual vampires. You know enough to gauge that measure as well. Could you agree with that as far as your experience and what maybe you've seen as well over the years?
I mean, certainly more about, I mean, certainly energy vampires, certainly energy vampirism, right? I mean, that's the essence of a lot of what goes on. There's obviously the literal vampirism. Why is adrenochrome being trafficked? Which we know it is. We know that there's trafficking of adrenochrome going on. So is that literal vampires?
I would gauge that they actually are. I've even had encounters with these motherfuckers, especially since 2015, 2016.
Can you share any of those encounters?
Oh, man. You want to talk about being tricked? This is the thing. One of the main tactics of dark sorcery, nerve induction that's being implemented. With all the dark towers that have been erected, they can send out pulse waves that target the nervous system that control the gauge of our perception. As far as some of my encounters with these types, I remember one particular incident. I got blissed out harder than I ever experienced my whole entire life by this dark witch. You have to understand, as far as my experience is concerned, they try to get me on their fucking side. And, you know, people would assume, based upon my persona or the way that I present myself, that I'm a part of this shit. When in fact, our kind are more terrifying than them, taking it back to the lycanthropic codex in terms of Carpathia. And this war, as far as my memory is concerned, is just as fucking real as anything else. This particular encounter that I had, it happened not too long after what hit in 2020. I was extremely fucking vulnerable. My whole fucking life was torn to fucking shreds at that point. Witnessing certain people around me get their souls raked the fuck out. People that claim to know the difference went with the programming. As far as I'm concerned, the biggest dark spellcast to have ever hit this realm is what happened in 2020. It wasn't just a small region in the realm after the most recent cataclysm that they started to genetically modify the human races, taking it back to the Anuna in context. This is where you get the term Anunnaki, taking it to the Caucasoid race lines specifically. I am not Caucasian, I am Carpathian. And there's a major difference in things that have unfolded as far as the ancient wars that still continue to play themselves out. Now, taking it to the gods, the war of the gods is still taking place right now. And what happened in 2017, this is when the activations of blood codes started to happen in the realm. So when it comes to our race lines, specifically white dragon lineages that hailed the Great North in context, this is why they did what they did in 2020. And the rise of Laoxism and all this kind of shit, the real dark shit that's going on. I know you know, man.
Mm-hmm. But so just explain, like, what do you mean? What happened in 2017 that you said that initiated what happened in 2020? Just to clarify.
The blood codes of our ancestors started to activate. And evidence of that is also all across the board as far as my people are concerned. Ritual tours have taken place with groups like Hailong and Wardruna. People are starting to remember their true roots in context. And I never would have imagined that this would have been something that unfolded starting the platform in the mystery school. I had direct interface with Odin himself. Odin came to me, man, you're speaking about the gods, right? This given over to archetypal consciousness and activation of the blood. The gods and goddesses in context are our ancestors. And as far as I'm concerned, they were real. They exist, not just on a multidimensional level, but taking it back to the 3 Ragnaroks that have already unfolded. The first one was Tara. And in the UK, you have monuments everywhere. Given that measure as remembering Tara, you got Tara Hill everywhere as a reminder. If you look at the flag of Ireland, it has the lyre, taking it back to the Lyran Codex, getting into the galactic spirals of creation. On account of that cataclysm that happened over, 560 fucking million years. I mean, it's so fucking far gone now, it really doesn't matter. We're here on ground level, but on account of what happened, the cataclysm of Maldek was the destruction of the planetary gate that used to rest between Mars and Jupiter. What do we have there now? The asteroid belt. So as far as the occult history is concerned, and a lot of the things that I've dug into over the years, the original purpose of incarnation here on Earth was to become a partaker of the biospiritual regenesis. I don't know about you, man, but I did not incarnate to be a slave here. And that's most of the realm. Unwitted.
Who won these wars that allowed for humans to be enslaved?
The Dark Ones.
But the dark being vampires or something else?
You can take it into a lot of different things as far as what people have alluded to, draconians, reptilians, greys, all this different shit in terms of the Watchers, who are the overlords of the meat sacks implementing these agendas on ground level. So it's not just what's happening geopolitically. It's not just what's happening with the banking. It's not just what's happening with the economy, how they're poisoning the food, the water, the air, all these lists of things that people are definitely more aware of, but it goes way, way deeper beyond that measure of the first veil, which is where most of humanity is standing at right now to transcend. Within the second veil is where these motherfuckers reside. I'm talking about the overlords, the entities that are working through the vampires here on ground level in order to implement their harvest in context to slavery. This is why, because they themselves cannot connect to what we can. They don't have the same abilities that we have as human. And this is why this realm is such a high commodity. Humans themselves are their greatest commodity as far as slavery is concerned, because we're the ones building this shit. Like you said, going back to what we're choosing to build, and all
our dreams, our energy is being utilized for the manifestation. So it's really interesting what you're talking about with our ancestors being the gods. I mean, something that keeps coming up, a lot of my journeys and visions has always been about the genetics, why it's so important, the genetic war. What people think of genetics, I guess it's coming up now, people freaking out, it's Nazism or whatnot, but genetics are very integral to how the soul can incarnate, right? Because of the DNA and the antenna, basically, that is someone's DNA. A certain manifestation is done through the technology of the body, right? Well, the body is predicated in genetics. That doesn't mean that there's not epigenetics and choices and things that can be done to change. Without the right body, that soul can't necessarily incarnate or align. That's also why the cloning was, like, a lot of experimentations were going on to try to figure out, like, okay, can we create clones that could absorb souls, right? That could actually bring a soul in to that cloned being. Golems and things that were created in those experiments.
Right. And that's what they have created, is a bunch of fucking golems. Husks that have been worked through in context to this. IQ capacity has also been lowered. People's pattern recognition skills have been greatly fucking affected. I can't believe that people can't see certain things that I'm explaining when I'm having conversations. Glad that you're able to, obviously on a higher level in terms of the gauge of your perception. Taking it back to the organic technology of the actual physical vessel. What is religion implemented getting us to deny calling the flesh sinful? No. This is the organic technology that we have in order to actually transcend here. And with that activation of blood codes, soul codes, the activation of your eternal spirit, and learning the arts and sciences that get you in alignment to these things, we're not able to anchor the higher here. We hit that wall. You hit that gaping jaw of Jormungandr. That's the Ouroboros. That's the lockdown. And what you were talking about earlier about letting go, everyone is clinging on to Loki's chariot in context of what the mythos has revealed. Are the gods real? Absolutely. They reside within our bones. They reside within our blood. They reside within our kidneys. They reside within our liver, our intestines. If we're not healthy, physically speaking, this is why they poison the fucking realm. Over the last 9 years since we last spoke, ill health increased beyond measure on top of what they did in 2020. This is why they did it, because they know that people's templates are activating in context of what we're getting into. And I've been driving this, initiating people into the occult Temple of the White Dragon Mystery School. And it has been 100% successful. The conversation that we had, I can't thank you enough for giving me that opportunity when it manifested. Because things wouldn't be where they are now. Despite all the challenges, despite all the setbacks and delays and all the fucking bullshit, I'm actually working with individuals that you know as well. It's just amazing what's happened because so many people didn't get the memo. So
Thing we're
a
saying
lot
about
of things I would say.
the gods being in the body, and how there was always a correspondence between the planets and the gods, and then the planets and the organs, dimensionally, how things play out. We're talking about destruction of stars and star systems, and that took place eons ago. But what is time? I always think about this. What is time when it comes to how we're measuring time, what current time is? The current universe, the current speed of light, and the current densities and whatnot. The decomposition of the carbon dating is based on dating of carbon. When they say the dinosaurs were here 150 million years ago, we don't know really that their dating is accurate. It's
As far as carbon dating is concerned, that's a completely inaccurate measure. They can only calculate so long before it's completely fucking irrelevant. That's also been proven.
yeah.
So I think that things are way, way more ancient than we can possibly imagine. I mean, human races have always existed. We've existed millions of years.
So it's like both. It's like at one level, humans have been around longer, the Atlantean civilizations, things like this. There have been previous civilizations, but at a different level, what might seem ancient may have not been that ancient. Like there literally could have been dinosaurs walking side by side with humans.
Oh, absolutely. That's also been proven. I was actually obsessed with dinosaurs when I was a kid.
I think I was too. Especially
I was going to be a fucking archaeologist, and my father took me to a lot of museums where they had exhibits, giant dinosaur skeletons and shit like that.
So in terms of these ancient wars that we're talking about, it's interesting to talk about the Sumerians' invasion of ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
In the ancient record, those are different timelines, right? And the Egyptians of like 6,000, 5,000, 4,000 BC, those are a totally different timeline than the Sumerians and their early texts.
That's the thing. That's what happened in context to the betrayal of Thoth, that history was completely fucking rewritten. This is why diving into the occult, digging even deeper past the narratives that the public sector has been given, most of what people know about ancient Kemet is only from the 19th dynasty onwards.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what existed before. On top of the fact that ancient Kemet has been demonized, it was the Thothian sect specifically that betrayed the priests of Ra. This is where the wars broke out, taking it back to the Hyksos tribes of the Scythians. Now, the Scythian tribes were many, many different tribes, but the Hyksos specifically were the ones that invaded ancient Kemet, taking it back to the 13th and 14th dynasty. What did I say? Most of what people know about ancient Kemet is only from the 19th dynasty onward. Okay? This is occult knowledge that I'm sharing with you here. And my connection to ancient Kemet is also very pronounced as far as the bloodline lineage. The pharaonic line, which has also been confirmed. So much mind-blowing shit has revealed itself as far as doing the real great work. I've learned more in the last 2 years than even the years previous. This avalanche, this trajectory, this integration, this is what the pathwork has revealed to me as far as who I am and what my position is, what all of this is that's unfolding. The birthright of mankind. This is what has been forgotten. And what existed before what happened in terms of the Great Betrayal, taking it back to the Sumerian invasion. That is when magic became corrupt in terms of the betrayal of Thoth. And that's what it all goes back to. The Thothian sect that sided with the cult of Baal Lilith and the cult of Belial came from the Sumerian Draconian Empire. That's where all this shit comes from. Kabbalah, which is late in context to these entities that work to genetically modify the human races, Caucasoids specifically, and turn them into fucking vampires. Went out on these campaigns to infiltrate different lands, taking shit the fuck over on a strategy that has led up to the present moment. The entire crux of what is happening now does go back to ancient Kemet in context of what I'm saying, man. It is the absolute total fucking goddamn crux of everything that's still unfolding right now on a feedback loop. People don't know the difference. Pulled into the meat grinder.
Say is the purpose of what humans were created for? Because the Anunnaki would say that we were created to work for the gods, right?
Right. That's the Sumerian Draconian narrative. I don't co-sign that narrative. Taking it back to the original teaching, again, the purpose of incarnation here on Earth was to become a partaker of the biospiritual regenesis. I didn't incarnate to be a slave here. It never worked, even in terms of templating. I tried to play that fucking game, and it never worked. And the reason why it never worked is because I'm not templated for it. I don't think you are either. I don't think any of us that know the difference are templated for that. What the fuck is going on? What's really going on here? There's not enough proper knowledge and wisdom. This is why my platform was hit on the level that it was. Other people as well. You had Thomas Sheridan on about a year ago, and I was checking out the interview you did with him. So many people that I've had on, prominent motherfuckers, Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tesarion, Mark Passio, Thomas Sheridan himself, have been on Black Earth Productions over the years. And these are all things that we touched upon. It's coming to an apex, because what I first saw after what hit the realm in 2020, in terms of the ancient future, accessing a mente and getting a hold of the actual records, activation of blood codes and all this different kind of shit I'm talking about. The libraries, the ancient libraries that were destroyed, all the records were destroyed, all the knowledge was buried asunder. The fucking Vatican has 50 miles underground. This large library, 50 miles. Can you imagine what is actually there? Now, think about accessing the records that are there within your blood and bones in terms of activating your templating. That is the knowledge they don't want us to access. The real occult knowledge, not what they're pumping out through the New Age movement or through religion and all this different kind of stuff. This is definitely something that I come to the conclusion to. Jump.
I get it, brother. Sure, for sure. You see this as a battle of different potential futures that's playing out. At some level, I feel these two timelines can coexist, that there can be an AI timeline and an organic Earth timeline simultaneous.
They're coexisting at the moment.
Yeah.
Because things aren't fully implemented on the levels that are actually planned. These pieces of shit plan to annihilate the human races off the fucking map by 2050. Now, I think that's total bullshit. I'm not one to co-sign that narrative. People that run with that idea, living in fear, and they have all power. No. It's much more complicated than that, because it's all about our state of mind. I've been teaching this aspect for years. Why are they so obsessed with controlling our minds? 24/7, non-stop distractions, trying to pull us into any fucking direction except actual ignition and remembering the true purpose of incarnation here. And this isn't some belief system. Again, taking it back to the original teaching, how things actually work. Anyone that has ever entered the gates in terms of the mystery school and has done the work has got the results. Not only in terms of my own life, but learning to remember who they are, what their true purpose is. And I think it's everybody's moral obligation to expose evil, but what's beyond it? Why are we even fighting? What the fuck is the point if we don't know what is beyond? And that's why a lot of people in the realm, I think, are still caught up in the geopolitical arena. They just keep their wheels greased. It just perpetuates itself, and it never fucking changes. One spoke within the wheel of madness after the other. I can't stomach that.
So you're suggesting, essentially, the work it's an internal work, it's a personal work. And as we manifest and create internally, so we're going to see the consequence around us and then even collectively.
Yeah, potentially on the level. This is why accountability to the path work is necessary. Two things in life are going to destroy man. One is the wrong woman. First of all, that's the first fucking thing. The second is not having a brotherhood, not having other men that we can correspond with on the level to hold ourselves accountable. That's the whole purpose. One of the actual measures, as far as the code that we live by with Temple of the White Dragon, is absolute and total accountability. You can't sip of the Pyrean Spring. You have to drink fully, and we have to see this all the way through. And I've seen so many people over the years drop off because of warfare, going back to old patterns, old ways of living, because of the pain that we need to confront on account of the core wound of humanity, which was the cause point for the great betrayal. And it was that moment that humanity, conditioned to betray the soul, plays itself out again and again and again and again on a repeat cycle. All the battles, all the wars, all the fights, all the bullshit.
You're saying it's self-betrayal.
Yes, absolutely.
Betrayal of one's own soul.
Right. Which will then lead an individual to ostensibly betray other people, stab people in the back, be a two-faced, fork-tongued piece of shit. No measure of accountability or integrity is what these people operate with.
It's sociopathic.
Sociopathic, psychopathic. Yeah, their frontal lobe is totally fried out. I don't know if you've ever Seen pictures of the brain of a psychopath, but the frontal lobe is completely fried out. Third eye, completely fried. Their heart, everything.
Well, but a lot of, and, you know, there are definitely people that are third eye active that are working on the dark side.
Yeah, I see the third eye as a window of extrasensory perception ability.
But it can also beam in. Pretty early on was that third eye is how they send the messages that they want us to receive, right? To activate for them. The programming, the messaging, all this stuff that comes into us. If we're not in charge of that window, if we're not actively like, oh, wait, nope, I'm not receiving that. I'm taking it back. I'm projecting it back at you, right? If we're not controlling that prism, then it's coming in and hypnotizing us and putting us into their reality.
Yeah. That's one of the major secrets of the actual moon gate itself. It regulates the gauge of our perception, taking it back to the nervous system. The biological technology we utilize to streamline sound, consciousness, energy, frequency, and vibration into physicality on a multidimensional level. People speak about the third eye. I think one of the things that I mentioned when we first spoke on Buzzsaw was activation of the first eye, which is hardcore intelligence. This is really what the eye of Ra, flesh of Ra, the gold of consciousness goes back to. What did the Anunnaki come to fucking harvest?
Gold.
The gold. And not just the ore of the realm, but the actual souls of humanity.
We have gold in the blood, right? There's gold inside of humans, and the mining is of the mind, right?
Mind. You see the correlation, the language we're speaking. And see, that's another factor. People don't even know the language that we speak that's actually enslaved us. If people don't understand Parsi syntax, quantum grammar, the language that we speak entraps us. It confuses us.
We always don't speak the same language. That's why communication is so difficult between people, right? I mean, because there's so much charge that people carry. As you know, you might say something to someone and all it takes is the word or whatnot, and they're triggered. Their emotions are triggered because you said something, and they're no longer engaged with you. They're engaged with the shadow or the ghost.
Yeah, it's all based upon the trigger and context of miscommunication, which leads to all issues and the problems in the entire realm. Miscommunication is one of the major factors. Again, the gauge of our perception being skewed, how our thought and emotion operate is also regulated by the organic technology of the nervous system. They have the exoteric technology now on even greater fucking levels. They can drop thoughts and emotional charges right into the cerebral cortex. We were talking about the third eye and the manipulation of the windows. The eyes are the window to the soul. Access this one. That's painful, man. Taking it to the wounds and the trauma and all the things that people are conditioned against. They're trying to escape having to fucking face in terms of living in the realm of effect. This is why the realm's enslaved, man. Because they're not willing to face their shit. One thing I know about the dark gods in context to my tradition, Loki is all about creating scapegoats. In fact, he's called the scapegoat god. So that you don't take responsibility, go unto yourself like Odin, sacrificing himself unto himself for proper knowledge and wisdom. The actual tree of life that we sacrifice upon is the actual organic technology of the nervous system itself, the central nervous system. You look at it by itself alone, it literally looks like a tree. All is within us. Why are we looking outside ourselves for these measures? Well, the reason was because we have not been taught correctly. We did not get that education from the time we were young and layered the fuck up in terms of overlays, distortions, all the nets, traps, and snares, the wounds and trauma. It plays itself out in terms of how they manipulate the law of cause and effect. It's like clockwork. You can gauge it on a fucking trigger like you're talking about. It's mind-blowing shit.
It is. So people can check out Black Earth Productions. You said some documentaries that you've done.
The Magog Rail Shaman Betrayal of Thoth segment is a 7-hour dissertation. I highly encourage people to check that one out specifically. Any segment on Black Earth Production would be brilliant. That one specifically, and also my Occult Secrets of Carpathia. Those two segments specifically is a total of 10 hours of content. You're not going to get anywhere else in terms of learning more about the actual occult history of this fucking realm.
That's fantastic. People can just go to your videos. They'll find it there?
Yes.
Fantastic. We'll have the link in the bio. And
I'll get all that over to you, man. That'd be
appreciate it. And I appreciate it. Thank you for talking today. You know, it's been fascinating to catch up with you, and I'll have to go through this series and get you back on.
All right, Sean. It's good seeing you, man. Appreciate you. Everyone go into the description below. Click on the link to more of Sean Stone's interviews on BU TV. It's been quite a while since the days of Buzzsaw. And coming back around, diving into things again at this point is a major milestone in terms of the progression rate with Black Earth Productions via Temple of the White Dragon. I do definitely plan on expounding on the dissertations mentioned, also put in the description below. And as for actual initiation into the occult, go to the website at blackearthproductions with a Z.com. Click on services, and go through everything in terms of level 1 apprentice, full rights initiation for those that have not yet entered through the gates. For those that have, if you have not yet taken level 2 adept Ulfadar training, in terms of learning battle magic on the level, you're going to want to line that out, especially in terms of what I'm going to be presenting next on Black Earth Productions. Everything is going to the next level. More is available as far as services with the Mystery School. So in terms of anything, send me a direct email at blackearthproductions with an S at the end at hotmail.com. I look forward to diving deep. I have a lot more coming in the future that you're definitely going to want to be on the lookout for. Also going back over the segments with Black Earth Productions again and again and again and again. You're not going to get it 1 round. You're not going to get it 2 rounds. You're going to have to go all 15 fucking rounds to the very end, all the way through, in order to stay focused on the trajectory of what is manifesting, and also in terms of what is here and what is coming. And to that, again, for anything, send me a direct email at Black Earth Productions with an S at the end at hotmail.com. Check out all the links below, especially with Sean Stone, so that we can continue to drive things forward in terms of network, those that are on the front lines of the actual war on levels that have yet to be unveiled for those to whom it's meant. And so to wrap things up with this segment, when the magician and alchemist realizes that they themselves are the Philosopher's Stone, and that this stone becomes like a diamond when salt and sulfur, or spirit and the body, are united through red Mercury. The link of the mind in terms of beingness is the embodied principle of the mind, just as the animals in terms of extensions of human consciousness or of emotion. That energy in motion that reflects nature in the universe is where we stand with 1 foot in the heavens and the other upon the altar of the earth itself. Our higher selves are elevated to the celestial spheres, but to the lower conditioned nature, that which binds us into the corridors of separation. Now is the time for the great philosophers to step forward even more in building the sacred stone, doing so by harmonizing our eternal spirit to soul code, blood code essence within our physical bodies. This is the result of the Philosopher's Stone. And even though the harsh blows of life wear us down, if embraced correctly, if approached the right way, will polish us until we reflect the light of 1,000,000 different points. And what one seeks outside lays forever dormant within, and only by fire and oath and blood can we balance and awaken it. For one does not find the stone, one becomes it. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. Get a hold of me directly. Be empowered. Be encouraged. HAILZ!